Professor Rena? Hello? Professor Rena?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Namaskar.
Namaskar,
How are you?
How are you, sir?
Thank you very
Good to see
much.
you, sir.
I must
Thank you.
thank you for giving your time on a Saturday, your weekend, but still you were kind enough to spare your time. We are very grateful.
Absolute pleasure, sir. No issues, and it's indeed a pleasure and honor to meet you in person. Although it's a virtual one, but at least I could able to see you. I read a lot about you. I know you probably while I was a child, but we didn't get the chance to. God created this opportunity for us to meet.
Very kind of you. Professor Rena, as I have mentioned to you in my mail,
Yes, sir.
you know, the background is, of course, in Andhra Pradesh, the government has mooted this idea of having three capitals. The new state had Amaravati as its capital. It was decided, but then the new government has mooted this idea that Amaravati would remain a legislative capital, and Kurnool would be the judicial capital, and Vishakhapatnam is going to be the executive capital. And while making this announcement, Professor Rena, the government had cited the example of South Africa. So in that context, there is a discussion in the state. Not only the discussion is confined to our state, but I think in Tamil Nadu also there was a small demand at a very basic primary level, which is an incipient level, that it might be a good idea to have one more capital, etc. So in that context, since the AP Chief Minister had quoted and cited the South African experience, I wanted to get in touch with experts like you to get your observations and your comments and your perspectives on this. As I mentioned to you in my mail, I have a set of 5 questions. Now, what I request you is that you answer these 5 questions as I put them to you, one by one. But do treat these 5 questions as standalone questions. Even if you had said some remark in one question, one answer to one question, if you think it's relevant in the second question or another question also, please don't hesitate to repeat it, because they're all going to be standalone questions. So with this prefatory remarks, I would like to kick off by asking you, what is the historical background for locating government functions in 3 different cities in South Africa?
Well, thank you very much, sir, once again for providing me this opportunity. And it is indeed a great honor and privilege for me to be with you today on 17th of October 2020 to speak on this pertinent issue of the 3 capital formula, 3 capital model. I would like to give you a background of South Africa, and so without which we cannot able to discuss about the matter. The background is that most of the people, they think that South Africa got independence about 26 years ago on 27th of April 1994. It's one of the youngest countries in the world. Probably Sudan, South Sudan is also born in 2011. But the challenge here that they think whether it is in India or rest of the world, they begin to think that South Africa created 3 capitals just after independence. That is not true. So I would just want to make it clear. Point number 1 here is that the historical, what is the history behind that? Let me give you a brief note about the history of South Africa pertaining to this question. and then we will move on to the next point of discussion. Sorry. So there are the existing people, the aborigines, we can say. They are the Koya, and Koya San. This is the original people of South Africa. And then later on, probably in other parts of Africa, more than 1,000 years ago, they migrated. The Bantu migration has taken place. So these are the two dominant ethnic groups that are originally, settled within this South Africa or Southern African, even Zimbabwe, or probably if you take Zambia and Botswana and Namibia and all these Southern African or Lesotho and Swaziland and so on. So that is the original point. Then we got the European settlers. They moved in South Africa. Probably Portuguese people, they tried around the end of maybe 1487. That is the time some Portuguese travelers, they came and they tried to explore. And then after the Portuguese, but they couldn't able to settle well. Whereas the Dutch settlers who came to settle in probably about 1652, that was the first Dutch settlement. Netherlands is the country which came and settled 1652. Jan van Reenburg. So that is the first ruler or first leader of the settlement here in South Africa. So they settled in Cape Province, Cape Town. Now we call it is Western Cape as of today, according to the new classification. Western Cape is like a province or it's like a state. In the Indian context. So Western Cape capital city is Cape Town. So the Dutch settlers, they came, they settled down there. Probably they begin to grow in terms of their political power, religious activities, economic power, and so on and so forth. So therefore, they begin to bring a lot of other, even East India Company, Dutch East India Company was also one of the associate. But the settlement of the Europeans or Dutch people settling in South Africa. Then what happens is that, so that is one point I would like to share with you. The other important point is that before the formation of these three capitals are not emerged just like that. It is not politically motivated or it is not economically motivated, nothing as of that sort. So what happened is that then there was Europeans, or probably French people also trying to look for South Africa to settle in here. And the Britishers, obviously, the whole world is in the hands of the Britishers. That's why we say that the British Empire, the sun never sets. So then looking into that fact, and the Britishers also came in because South Africa is the world in terms of the natural resources. We have got more than 75% of the platinum deposits of the world centered in South Africa. In fact, the city where I'm sitting here today with you, Mahikeng is the capital city of Northwest Province. So Northwest Province is having most of the platinum deposits. So this is called as a platinum province actually. So then it has got gold, it has got diamonds, it has got so many other precious resources. Now, therefore, the European settlers begin to come in to South Africa to explore and to exploit the natural resources, obviously, after the Berlin Declaration in 1885. Then, when Britishers came, there was a fight between the Dutch people one side and the British people on the other side to have the supremacy or have the complete control over South Africa, South African land. And then there were two wars taken place. So the war number one, Anglo-Boer War. Boer is in Afrikaans language, it is called like a farmer and like agricultural farmers. So most of those Dutch settlers, they are agricultural farmers, basically. Now, Boer is named to Dutch people and Anglo or British is called as Anglo. So Anglo-Boer War, the first war taken place between these two different countries on South African land in 1880, 1881. And eventually there was some kind of, probably winning and losing, that kind of thing. And then after that is the first war ever taken place. And after the second war, in about 18 years time, that was taken place between 1899 to 1902. So about 3 years period, the war has taken place. Then in that war, obviously, Britishers won in the battle, and then the battle. I visited the Bloemfontein, the museum where the battle has taken place. Probably more than 50, 60,000 people died, including some Indian soldiers also during that particular war. They were brought in here to fight against the Dutch people by the Britishers. So obviously, in that battlefield, and then once the British take over the power, and then before they take over the power in Bloemfontein, the war has taken place, Anglo-Boer Second War, that I mentioned just now, 1899 to 902. So then that was a complete control. The province, what I'm talking about, is Bloemfontein area, which is popularly known as Free State or Orange Free State. Orange Free State was under the total control of the Dutch people. And as I mentioned earlier, that the Cape Town was also originally probably settled by the Dutch people. So because of the British supremacy, then they kicked out of the Cape Province. So then Dutch people, they came out of Cape Province, they moved to different other cities where they can able to settle in well without having much oppressions by the Britishers and much problems from them. So then what happened after this war, Anglo-Boer War, then obviously the Dutch people were defeated, whereas the British got the control over the entire South African land. There was no South Africa. There is no existence of South Africa at that time. So then they have taken about 8 years period to discuss with the British Empire, the British Queen, and so on and so forth, what needs to be done actually. Now they won over the war. Now there are 4 provinces those days. The 4 provinces are, number 1 is Cape Province, which we call today is Western Cape. And the Cape Town is the capital of the Cape Province. Number 2 is the Natal Province. The KwaZulu-Natal, we say during the Mahatma Gandhi period also, Mahatma Gandhi came here probably, and he lived here for about 20 years. And before Mahatma Gandhi, there are a lot of Indian laborers who can work in the sugarcane industries. They came and settled here about 150, 160 years back. So during that time, the Natal, now it became a KwaZulu-Natal, and Natal is also 2nd province. The 3rd province is Transkei, Transvaal province. So Transkei is the capital of Transkei is Pretoria. And then the 4th one is Orange Free State. There is the Orange River, that's why it is called Orange Free State. And Orange Free State is the 4th province. So there are 4 provinces that have been existing in those days. Probably we are talking about 120 years back history now. Now then what happens, and after the war is over, then they have to settle what needs to be done now, how the South Africa can be administered. And then under those circumstances, the British, they have decided that, okay, now which should be the capital city of South Africa? Then the controversy arises. Everybody wants to stick onto their guns, stating that no, my city is already been the capital and I should have the capital city. Obviously, with this battle for the capital cities, so Cape Town remain capital city of Cape Province. Transkei, capital city is Pretoria, and Bloemfontein remains as a capital city of Orange Free State. Now, Natal is the only province, it did not get any capital city. Pietermaritzburg, where Mahatma Gandhi was slapped from the train and he was kicked out of the train, that was the incident taking place at Pietermaritzburg. I visited also that place probably about 3-4 years ago. Even our Prime Minister Modi was also visiting at that time. And he was also traveling in the same train where Mahatma Gandhi traveled probably more than 170 years back. So what happens, I just would like to share all these perspectives for you to have a clear understanding about the story of the 3 capitals. So then what is happening is that then they said that, okay, Natal also wants to have Pietermaritzburg as their capital, but they said that it is very difficult for us to manage 4 capital cities. Rather, we will give you some financial packages for you financial benefits for you, then you keep quiet. So with that kind of deal, Natal kept quiet, and Natal, there is no capital city. Now these three capital cities formed in, we're talking about 110 years ago. Three capital cities for South Africa. Developed, as you know pretty well, that apartheid is nothing other than the system of India. So when India got independence, 15th of August 1947, then the same British people, they take the model of India, the caste system of Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. So they divided the people of South Africa into three different groups. White people, whether they are Dutch people or British people or French people, doesn't matter. White is one community, which is like a Brahmins of India. Then the second one is colored community. A colored is the combination of the white people associated with the blacks in South Africa. So then there is a new race that has emerged that is called colored people. So then Indian people obviously is one category. Indians are Asians because there are people from Indonesia, Malaysia, also they settled here. So that is one category. And the black people, which are majority, 80% of the people are black people actually. So then with this racial segregation, on racial grounds, they begin to impose laws which are completely against the humanity, completely against the race of South Africa. So this is practiced from 1948 until 1994 when South Africa got independence. So this is the background. Now what we need to understand, the Andhra Pradesh people in India or the Indians in general need to understand that capitals are not formulated after the independence of South Africa in 1994. It has been there for more than 110 years.
And
now, under those circumstances, the question comes.
President, that arrangement emanated from the war. Am I right in
Absolutely,
yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. So that's the kind of story I would like to share it. That probably can give you some sort of background of under what circumstances the three capital cities.
Okay. Now, that brings us to the second question. Did that arrangement serve the purpose that it was originally intended to? You're able to hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Indeed, what happens is that when the British has formulated these three capitals, there are four. One, two, three, four. The one is that it is the British domain. It is the British flag. It is the British national anthem. So there is only one needs to be followed in the entire, all the provinces of South Africa, all the four provinces of South Africa. Then the second point is that there should be two languages, because Afrikaans is nothing but a Dutch language, which was used by most of the Dutch people, and it's a modified Dutch language, Afrikaans and English. So this is two. Three is three capitals. As I mentioned to you, Cape Town, Pretoria, and Bloemfontein. Three capitals. Four is four provinces. So four provinces, as I mentioned to you, that Cape Province, Transvaal Province, and Orange Free State Province, and Natal Province. So with this 1, 2, 3, 4, then they have developed that formula, and then they implemented until the independence. Now, whether the benefits that are being emerged from these three capital, they are able to reach to the common man, or what had happened actually. If we understand the dynamics behind that, then we need to look at the cost and the benefit issues. If in economics we say a cost benefit analysis actually. So having three capitals in South Africa, until today, it remains only one country in the whole world having three capital cities. It is not by the chance or by the choice, but it is under circumstances that prevails 110 years ago. Yeah. So it is more like not on consensus basis. It's like a compromising basis, actually.
It was not a choice.
So that's what had happened. And now it's not a choice, actually. So that is what we need to understand. Then to understand your question, you are saying that whether the benefits that are the purpose.
Has it served?
Yeah, the purpose. Yeah, the purpose is that, sir, you see, the distance between Cape Town, for example, Cape Town is considered to be one of the beautiful places on the planet. It remains as top 10 destinations of the world, actually. So Cape Town has got a legislative capital where the parliament is there, and our even Taj Hotel is also just close to, in a walkable distance from Cape Town. I was living in Cape Town. I was working in University of Cape Town before. And then, so it is centrally located. Parliament is centrally located. And then it is in the walkable distance of provincial government headquarters also. It's within the walkable distance. There's also a museum. There are also other, probably the beach and so on and so forth. So what I want to say is that is the Cape Town capital. Now, Pretoria is been the capital city where probably it has got more potential to be a capital. Now, if you compare the Cape Town and let's say that Cape Town and Pretoria has got more benefits to be a capital, or it is having more qualities to be a capital than Cape Town, because Cape Town weather is always fluctuating, number one. Number two, there is so much wind, so much rains frequently, so the weather conditions always fluctuate. Whereas in Pretoria, the weather conditions are stable. And geographically, if you look at Pretoria and Cape Town, there are almost 1,461 kilometers far from each other. And now, so that is the kind of problem here. And then we have the other third capital, Bloemfontein. I've been to Bloemfontein for a number of times, and even I was there in the premises of Supreme Court with my family as well. So when we look at that, distance between Bloemfontein and the Pretoria is 461 kilometers. Whereas from Bloemfontein to Cape Town is the plus minus, if we touch it, even we can, when we travel on the National Highway number 1, we can travel from Cape Town to Bloemfontein to Pretoria. So what I wanted to explain here is that geographically they're located in 3 different locations, very far from each other. Now, the benefits, whether the 3 capital cities are serving the common man, ultimately the capital cities must serve the common man. Yes. If the common man is not being served, then the use of stuff is useless. So, and then there are many people in South Africa, particularly in the rural part of South Africa, they don't even know Bloemfontein is the capital city. So they only think that Pretoria is the capital city, obviously because of certain reasons, that Pretoria has got more than 105 diplomatic missions. All the embassies or the high commissions are situated or located within the 5 to 6 kilometers vicinity of Pretoria. And then we have got more than 32 government departments, like Department of Agriculture, Department of Environmental Affairs, and Home Affairs, and so on and so forth. So they are also centered there. They also constructed Union Building, which is also by and large similar to that of our Indian Parliament. Indian Parliament, the construction, the person who designed in the British time for Indian Parliament and the Union Buildings of South Africa, where the president sits and the executive sits, is by and large the same structure actually. So now what happens is that under these circumstances, the people, those who are not even aware, some of the people living in the Tswana area, the Tswana land that I'm sitting here in the northwest province of South Africa, they don't know Bloemfontein is their capital city actually. Only they think about between Cape Town and Pretoria. So Pretoria is also not only close to the most of the other provinces. For example, we got according to the new classification in South Africa, we got 9 provinces. So 9 provinces, and those days we got 4 provinces. Now 4 provinces become 9 provinces. Now Gauteng is 1 province, which is the smallest province. The Pretoria is the capital city of Gauteng. as a state level capital. So it is not only serving the national capital, but also serving the state capital, that is Gauteng. And then there is Pumalanga is one state, Limpopo is another state, Northwest where I am is another state, and Orange Free State or Free State is another state. So these four states are very closely connected or sharing the borders with Gauteng or Pretoria. Now within the proximity of about 500 kilometers distance. And then it is also not only close to the within the South African provinces, but also close to Harare, Zimbabwean capital city, is very within 500 kilometers distance. And Maputo is also very close by. And we have got Maseru, the capital city of Lesotho, is also within 350, 400 kilometers distance. And Gaborone, Botswana capital, is also within 500 kilometers distance. So in that way, Pretoria has got more advantages because it's centrally located. It is not only connecting the people of these provinces, majority of the people, like Zulu people we have got 22% of the people in the country, they are Zulu people, probably about 16, 18% people are Xhosa people. These are the two dominant ethnic groups in South Africa. They are all close by. And probably people coming from different provinces, they're all closely connected with this Pretoria province. Whereas when we go back to Cape Town side, Cape Town is a coastal city, just like the Visakhapatnam of Andhra Pradesh. So in Cape Town, as I mentioned, that is about 1461 kilometers from Pretoria, and it is only closely connected with the North Province. North Province is one of the backward provinces, and Eastern Cape is also related. So that is why when we compare these two cities, whether Cape Town is the better capital or Pretoria is the better capital, when we discuss and argue on these two grounds, on these two cities, then obviously everybody can vote for Pretoria because of geographical location. So that is what I don't know whether I covered the question that you are asking me.
Yes. That brings us to another point. Is there a serious rethinking about doing away with three capitals and going for one capital? Is there a serious thinking? And if so, what are the arguments for retaining three capitals, or what are the arguments for giving up three capitals?
Yes, absolutely. That is an interesting question as well. Now, the challenge here is that whether we have got any kind of feasibility studies that have been taken place, particularly after Nelson Mandela became the first president of South Africa in 1994. And as you know that he was been imprisoned for 27 years actually in Robben Island jail. I visited that jail as well. Now, after he being released by F.W. de Klerk, then president of South Africa, from the prison, and then he became the first president. So then the discussion take place whether we can continue with these three capital cities or we maintain with Pretoria as the capital, as one capital of the nation. So then there were, politically, because these people have been enjoying their capital cities for the last more than 110 years. Now they are probably, those days, 1994 means more than 80, 85 years or so. They were reluctant to have Pretoria as the capital because now the people living in Western Cape Province, where the Cape Town is the capital city, there are Afrikaans speakers. 60% of the people are Afrikaners. Almost 75 to 80% of the people living there, either they are whites or they are colored people. The black population in Western Cape Province is very little, probably less than maybe 20%. So that is one of the factors that I would like to share with you. Now they look into the dynamics of these three capital cities, whether it is feasible, whether it is effective, whether it is cost efficient to continue these three capital cities in the long period of time. Because it's not 1 year or 2 years or 5 years or 10 years. It is the process for a longer period of time we need to have the capital city. So then under those circumstances, there was a lot of discussions, debates that they thought of that, okay, if we bring Cape Town legislature means they may have summer meetings, they may have winter meetings on and off. And when these parliamentary members, I think they got more than 470 parliament members in South Africa. If all those members, ministers, president, everybody travels to Cape Town, how much it's going to cost? And in terms of accommodation, in terms of logistics, in terms of transport, in terms of so many other matters, it is going to be a costly affair.
Yeah.
So they estimated actually in 1995, just after independence, there were some kind of studies, research studies that have been conducted on this matter, whether we can continue with three capitals or whether we can make one capital. So what are the different options we have? Then they thought that, okay, if we bring, let's say, Cape Town legislature to Bloemfontein, what is going to happen? Bloemfontein, it has already got to the Supreme Court. It is the judiciary capital of South Africa. And if we bring those two, then what is the best option for us? Because as I mentioned to you, the distance between Pretoria and Bloemfontein is only 461, relatively all right, manageable. And then they looked at that option and they said that no, it is not possible because now politically they become more sentimental actually. Now Cape Town is one of the prominent places. They don't want to take out legislative assembly from Cape Town. So that it became an issue there. Then they couldn't bring it here. Then the alternative, they also thought of that, okay, let us bring Cape Town to, or legislative to Pretoria, where the executive probably branch is located. Then they have seen the options. What is the cost? How much is going to cost actually? They looked at different options. If we sell some of the governmental buildings, how much money we're going to generate from that? And if we bring and establish, like they identified the Centurion, they identified Santon, they identified a few other places within the Pretoria area where we can locate, where we can build a new assembly or parliament, like basically national parliament. Then they look at the costs and benefits. They think that that is viable relatively. Bringing Cape Town legislative branch to Pretoria and relocating completely, or bringing even Bloemfontein also to Pretoria. They looked at that option. So that option is relatively viable, relatively doable actually. And then because the cost, when they estimate the cost that was, they are trying to come out with a figure is relatively cheaper and better and efficient option, or probably better option to bring the legislative hall from Cape Town to Pretoria, but they couldn't do it. They also look at the other option, taking Pretoria executive back to Cape Town and making Cape Town as the single capital. And then the cost that they estimated is too much high. So they couldn't able to do it. So now they just maintaining the status quo for the past 100 years.
Professor Rena, what are the operational difficulties in having three capitals? I'm asking this from the common citizen point of view, in the sense of a citizen accessing executive services, legislative services, and the judicial services. Suppose if there's a common man, would it be more convenient for a citizen to have all these three in one place, or distributed into two or three locations? What is the common man's perspective there, both in terms of not only just the cost of the government moving from one place to the other? For instance, there is a legislative session, all the president, the MPs, and of course the entire secretariat, the secretaries, the officials moving to Cape Town. That is one cost. That cost is for the government. But what is the cost incurred by the citizen if the three executive functions, three state functions, executive, judiciary, and legislative, are dispersed among three different places?
Yes, well, sir, that is also an important question. In fact, the challenge is that because of geographical locations, because of the distance actually, as I mentioned to you, that 1461 kilometers between these two main capitals, and that became a challenge actually. Many people, surprisingly, in different parts of South Africa, they never even visited Cape Town until today, after 26 years of the democracy.
Okay.
Forget about a common man. I'm talking to some professors that I meet during the conferences. Many professors, they never even visited Cape Town actually. So, meaning that shows that a common man is not going to have an access because of the distance, obviously. It's a costly matter. Traveling from, let's say, from Johannesburg to Cape Town, it's very costly exercise. Even they use the flight or we use the car, they don't have a public transport.
I mean, time-wise, it's costly.
Time-wise also, obviously. It takes more than 1 day to travel by bus from Johannesburg to Cape Town, actually. So that is absolutely a costly exercise. So in terms of whether it is beneficial to the people, then my answer would be no, obviously not. So if we look at the context of Andhra Pradesh, for example, within the geographical location of Andhra Pradesh, after the separation from Telangana, and then if you look at that, Andhra Pradesh has got 13 districts. And out of the 13 districts, now let's say the Visakhapatnam, Vizag, is like a Cape Town, which has already got a well-developed infrastructure. And in terms of having a capital city, that would be a best option because it has got a train route and sea route, airport route, and land route. So there are 4 routes. And then I visited Cape Town, probably Vizag during January this year, and I'm fascinated by the city actually. So that is one thing. The other thing is that Amaravati, if you look at Amaravati, used to be the capital city during the Maurya Empire, during the Ashoka dynasty of 2nd century BC. Now, during that time, the Amaravati remained to be the capital city, and then as a vassal kingdom. But then after that, if you look at the history, Shatavahana dynasty, there are also many various other dynasties that have been set up from time to time. Then Amaravati was the capital city. But geographically, if you look at the distance between Amaravati and Vizag is 350 kilometers, and from Amaravati to Kurnool, they wanted to set up a judicial capital in Kurnool district. Is also about by and large 350 kilometers. So it is centered, but the central place for South Africa, not even Pretoria is not in the central place actually. So probably Bloemfontein, they must have found some other place, maybe Kimberley or somewhere else, to make it more central. So that is what we need to look at, the geographical location. The politicians or the political parties, they come and they go. But it is the land, it is the governance system, and it is the people or the generations who come. They remain forever. So we all here, human beings, we may live here probably 50 to 70 or 100 years. After that, we gone. N.T. Ramarao is gone, and probably YSR Reddy is gone, and many other politicians are gone. So we all leave, but it is the people, whatever we do, we wanted to have 3 capitals or 4 capitals, doesn't matter, but it should be beneficial to the people or a common man. And therefore, we need to look at the peace and justice. If there is no justice, whatever we do as an administrator, as a politician, then there is no peace also. So peace now, and justice.
The opinion in South Africa.
Yes, sir.
Roughly, generally, broadly speaking, would they prefer to have 1 capital, or would they continue the present arrangement of having 3 capitals? What would they prefer if there is a choice to be made?
Well, obviously, as an economist, as a professor of economics, my belief is that 1 capital, 1 nation. That is the best principle. Because of obvious reasons. You see, any politician or any political power who is ruling the country or a state, they are there only for a limited period of time. They are going to utilize the resources that belongs to the people actually. They are not generating their own money, in fact. The money is coming from the common man. And every single cent that has been spent on this excessively, on this kind of, extravagancy kind of tasks, that will be burdened to the common man. So therefore, if I suggest that there should be 1 capital for South Africa, but because after 26 years of democratic dispensation or democratic government in South Africa, black government in South Africa, nobody is touching that matter. Because the people, they almost forgotten, they think that this is the way that we need to live with. So they are just moving on with that. But in the long run, if you take it for the past 26 years of democracy,
but I think it was Zuma who raised this issue once again, isn't it?
Yes, probably now and then, people, they come and they talk, they try to bring, but ultimately there should be some permanent solution for this problem. They cannot able to run because it is costing a common man. In those days, I think they were making an assessment study, it costing 100 million South African rands. So 100 millions of today, it would be more than 2 billions actually. So it is going to, the costs are escalating from time to time. Now the cost burdens and the people who is going to bear the burden, it is the common man. So whatever the politicians should do, they should do anything and everything in the best interest of the people, the common man.
Wonderful, Professor Rena. It's very illuminating, and especially, you have described very graphically how South Africa came to adopt the three capital thing, and what are the concerns, the economic cost and benefit, and from the point of view of the administration as well as from the common people. I'm very grateful to you for sparing your time. Thank you.
Absolutely, pleasure, sir.
And
thank you, sir.
In our we are actually making a documentary on this.
Yes, sir.
I thought people like you should throw light on this so that the discussion and the debate that is taking place in the state as well as in the country would be an informed debate rather than um, drawn on the lines of already existing opinions or party political, etc., etc. But and that way, I think your conversation is extremely useful for us and for hopefully for the people of Andhra Pradesh. I thank you very much for sparing your time on a weekend. Thank you very much.
Absolutely pleasure, sir. It's absolutely a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
We'll end the.
Did I cover all your questions, sir,
yes,
or anything is left?
All of them are covered very amply, very, very clearly. You've been able to throw light on this. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you. My honor.